Again, and if the show count is correct, I think this is show like 80 something. Isn't that about what your math shows?
Number 80, 2022. Here we go. First show for Bossier Watch out of the year.
Yeah. Hold on, I got to get off these other videos here. Let's, do our thing and make sure that, we're showing up in Facebook and we're streaming to YouTube as well. We're on both channels, Louisiana Watch and Bossier Watch. So hopefully the Zuckerberg folks will be notifying us here in a minute. We can check our audio and all that sort of thing. And we're already up to about 20 people right now. That's not too bad.
So we are out there in the internet, wild blue yonder already, everywhere.
Yes, we are. And I just got my first notification from Zuckerberg himself saying that we are live. That's always a good thing. So, folks, we got, about 20 something, almost 30 people watching right now. If you're new to the show, then what we're going to do here in just a few seconds is we're going to do about a 2.5 minute countdown plus a little 30-second video and all that sort of thing. That lets people get the notifications and join in. We encourage you to grab a stiff drink, go pop some popcorn, and let your friends know that we're on. You can watch on Facebook, and we're streaming live on both YouTube channels as well. In case you don't want your name to be seen on Facebook, we can understand. We were just talking
now, Rex,
about your international fame.
Yeah, we ain't going to go. But we're talking about Bossier tonight. Now,
yes, we are.
We got to give everybody a little heads up before we go to this little break. Did you know that we had a justice of the peace in Bossier that got in a little bit of a kerfuffle?
Oh, really? Well, I hate to say it, but that wouldn't surprise me too much. But what was this kerfuffle?
He got indicted in Bossier.
Indicted? For what? Do we know?
Concubinage.
Really? Well, when we come back from the break and get into the show, we may just have to share a little information on that.
I hadn't seen this on Sat Owl, Bossier Now, or not even John Settle. I hadn't seen it there either.
So it could be breaking news, right?
It could be.
And we got to figure out what concubinage means too. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and do our break. Let's do our countdown, and we'll be back here in about 2.5-3 minutes, folks. We got about 40 of you watching. And while we're doing the countdown, if you'll, again, grab some popcorn, get something to drink, whatever you want to do, tag some friends, let friends know, we will be back to get started. And we do have a guest tonight, so y'all stay tuned. This is going to be interesting. And we'll reveal what constable got in trouble. Here we go. podcast is brought to you by Eagle Truck Center, soaring to new heights. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go.
Oh, good goobity goo.
Are
Okay.
Are you okay over there?
Oh, I about fell out my chair.
I didn't think
reading
I was
that
a comedian, but okay.
I was trying to determine what concubinage means. That just about broke my back.
Yeah, we'll have to share that here in a second. And I think I said that it was a justice of the peace, but I think I was incorrect about that.
No, stop before you mess up again. You said constable.
Oh, I did say constable. See, I'm just
You
all kerfuffled over the concubinage of a.
see there. I have improved your language there. I'm busting some halting out on you. You know, it's kerfuffle. I mean, that's a popular word in Halton.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Because I've never heard
read a
you say
Halton
that
dictionary.
before. I've never heard you say that before tonight.
Well, I usually say shenanigans, but I thought kerfuffle would be nice for tonight.
Well, see, shenanigans, that's a Ruston thing.
Yeah,
Y'all
it's
got y'all's own language out there.
Yeah. So speaking of our own thing and languages and what we got going, what is on our agenda tonight? I mean, I've kind of got it right there on the screen, so it's not really any secret. But
Well, you know, there's a lot of crap going on. Let me give you an example.
yes,
I got two friends that I was trying to put together, this week for a lunch. And they both call me and they both say, "Oh, we're in quarantine. We got exposed."
I thought they were going to say we can't have lunch with you anymore. We can't be seen in
They
public
both
with
did.
you.
Now, neither one knows each other, and they both says, "Oh, we tested positive and we're in quarantine." And I got to tell you, this goes right into the first thing I want to jump into right out of the gate: mass formation psychosis. Have you
got
heard
these
of it?
big words tonight.
I'm telling you, that is the deal tonight. Mass formation psychosis. Have you heard of it?
Well, actually, I have because I kind of stay out there on the bleeding edge of tinfoil hat land. But so, what is it? I mean, what does that mean? What does it have to do with Bossier?
Well, I think that this mass formation psychosis thing could be applied to a lot of different things. Currently, it's kind of the deal when you're dealing with COVID and the vaccines and all this. We call it COVID madness,
Mm-hmm.
but I think this is like the formal educated definition of COVID madness is what I really think. But when I was kind of reading it and when it caught my attention, I was thinking, you know what, this could apply to voters and taxpayers and how they address and deal with issues as it pertains to their local governments or state governments and even the federal government. I mean, I think it explains a whole lot. And this thing was brought forward, and you know even better than I about Joe Rogan. I
Right.
mean, you tell people about Joe Rogan if they've never heard of this guy.
Well, I mean, I was first introduced to Joe Rogan through the Fear Factor show, by the way. And if you've never watched the Fear Factor show, I think it's probably on Netflix or whatever. My wife and I actually binge watched like every season of Fear Factor, I don't know, a few months ago. So anyway, he was the host of that show. He's also been very involved with MMA and all that, and I'm sure he's done a lot of other things. He's also a stand-up comedian. He's done some cameos in some movies and shows and all that. But his current title is basically king of podcasting, so to speak. Now, I got to be clear because I am a tech guy that videos are not podcasts, no matter what you hear people say. Technically, a podcast is just audio, but a lot of people now, it's a Coke Pepsi thing. So anyway, Rogan has done a deal with Spotify, and he has very interesting interviews that he does with people. He releases the audio and the video as well, and he pretty much just has conversations with these people, and it can be extremely interesting. I mean, he had an interview with Elon Musk that was pretty outstanding. I mean, they sat there and like smoked cigars and chatted for a couple hours.
Well, Joe Rogan this week, for everybody watching and our folks that are listening, that aren't actually seeing the video, Joe Rogan had an amazing interview this week. And that interview, it literally set the mainstream media and all of Facebook, Twitter, it set all these people on fire. They went to deleting him like across the board. I mean, it was just like, and the thing was his ratings, and this was a podcast. He doesn't even have any video. He didn't even really have any video on it. It was a podcast. His ratings went higher than Fox News, any CNN, any of the MSNBC, all of them. He blew them all out of the water.
Sure. Yeah, he's insanely popular. I mean, I have no idea what his viewer or listener numbers are, but he's pretty much king of the hill. And kind of like you and I were talking about earlier, and this is going to rattle some of our left-leaning friends, but, he's kind of I would say, or describe him as sort of the Rush Limbaugh, or he's to podcasting and to social media what Rush Limbaugh was to AM radio. Now, I want to be clear. Rogan is not what most of us would consider a conservative at all. He does have some conservative views. He's got some libertarian stuff, what we would consider left-leaning. So I'm not saying he's, ultra right-wing conservative, but he is that powerful in social media because he just has cool conversations with people. And he's a likable guy.
Yeah, so this week, he has this Dr. Malone on, right? And right. Dr. Malone is said to be, which I don't think it's accurate, and I don't know that the guy actually claims to be the guy, the one of the mRNA vaccine patent guy or the guy that created it. I don't know that he actually claims that.
No, he straight up claims to be a big part of it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but I don't think he claims that he was responsible for all of it. I mean, did he have a hand in it? But I think media may have pushed it that it was. But he had this guy on for an interview, and this guy had some comments, and it set the world on fire. And if you haven't heard it, we're not going to play all of it because it was a pretty long interview. But I think we'll play the first part of it. So roll on with it.
All right. So you want me to roll on with the actual part of the podcast?
Yeah, the very first part. His first words out. It ain't but just a sentence or so, about 10 seconds maybe.
Yeah, let me see if I can get past Rogan here for a second. See, so I don't have a good time stamp on it, but here we go.
Retroviruses and their links to breast cancer. And it just happened that while I was in there, this is circa 83, 84, this whole thing cut loose in San Francisco. With the immunodeficiency syndrome in men. And the lab ended up right at the forefront of that. Davis is just down the street, basically, from San Francisco. And at the Davis Primate Center, they had discovered that there were monkeys that had immunodeficiency. And so I was there in the lab as an undergraduate as a total bench rat.
Now, I'm going to pause it right there. So he's given just kind of his background and how he got into basically gene therapy and that sort of thing and all the stuff he's in. It was actually back in the 80s with AIDS and HIV.
Yeah, so the guy's got a history, and he knew he's been around this game a long, long time, and that isn't what was the controversy at right. all. In fact, we need to jump forward to the next video. I think it's the band video.
Yeah, this one here.
This one right here. And his very first comments right out of the gate sets the framework.
Yeah, so let me see if I can get this one going. All right, here we go.
This is a fundamental phenomena of the human mind, is this ability to become hypnotized by focusing all of your attention on one small thing. Once that happens, people lose their ability to have rational thought and judgment.
Okay.
All right, let's pause that for a second. So, yeah, that one, well, that and a couple other interviews, you're right, have kind of stirred up a lot of people that are on one side or the other of this whole vaccine controversy and the as well as the COVID controversy and all that. But I would encourage everybody, if you don't have a Spotify account, just go make a free Spotify account and then search for Joe Rogan Experience and go listen to that whole interview. No matter which side you're on, you need to listen to the interview objectively.
And what he ended up saying was he defined this as mass formation psychosis. Okay, and I read, like, I think it was Forbes magazine, something that they put out, or maybe one of the other, media things, and they were like dismissing the terminology and even dismissing what he was saying about, even that mass formation psychosis, that terminology was even a thing, whether it even truly existed. So did a little bit research more, and if you go down to the at Corona Oshoots 3,
oh yes,
Rex,
yeah, let me get over there
at the 339 mark, as it would turn out, this is actually a thing. It's not made up. I mean, it's not real. This was actually a bunch of these highly intellectual people. Not to say that people from Halton aren't intellectual, but I can tell you none of these folks were in Halton.
It's a different kind of intellectual.
And they didn't come from Plain Dealing. They didn't come from Benton, and they damn sure didn't come from Bossier City. So,
right. Okay, so we're ready to hit play on the. You might hear a second. Yeah, might hear a second or two of German, but just ignore that, folks. He's going straight back to English. So here we go.
So what is it in your view? What is it that apart from the mainstream media, what is it that has caused this illusion for so many people that they don't see the reality, but they see a totally different picture of what really goes on?
Yes, four things need to exist or need to be in place if you want large-scale mass phenomena to emerge. And the first thing is that there need to be a lot of socially isolated people, people who experience a lack of social bond. The second one is that there need to be a lot of people who experience a lack of sense-making in life. And the third and the fourth condition is that there need to be a lot of free-floating anxiety and a lot of free-floating psychological discontent. So, meaning anxiety and discontent that is not connected to a specific representation. So it needs to be in the mind without the people being able to connect it to something.
I mean, we could make that argument for Bossier politics around here.
Well, could you make that argument just for Bossier politics? Isn't that how everybody feels about national politics, state politics across the board? We talk about all the time the lack of engagement and people that have they basically have tuned it out. And why have they tuned politics out? Or, taking an interest in things that affects their livelihood, why have they done it?
Well, true, and I would well, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. Okay, so one of the challenges is, and we've talked about this before, for instance, in the recall efforts, people hear the main headline, but they don't read past the first or second paragraph if they read past the headline, okay? And so they get all ginned up about something, and then it kind of tends to be short-lived, and then they get ginned up about something else, and it just goes on and on. What people need to do, and this is what we've tried to do on the show, is we give our opinions, we show information, we show screenshots and all that sort of thing. But we also encourage people that, hey, we're not professional journalists by any stretch of the imagination, and we're going to inject our viewpoints and our opinions into this, and then you go figure out your own, whether you agree with us or not. But the problem is that the mass media knows how to play with people's minds into this, mass formation psychosis syndrome, I guess is what it is.
Now, let me throw another curveball at you, Rex. Do you think that politicians, elected officials, do you think that they have this thing called mass formation psychosis? They run on these platforms, they get elected, and then when they get elected, they don't do what they say. Case in point, Bossier City. We had a mayor. What did he run on about, the man shack, term limits, all those things?
Yeah, doing an audit, the whole 9 yards. We ain't.
But it
seen
would
nothing.
seem that he's fell right in line with the status quo. So is that a form of mass formation psychosis?
Not really, because, well, in my opinion, not really, because he's not doing it to mess with people's minds. He's doing it because, well, he just doesn't know any better.
Yeah, but he's on the inside. Now, I would argue, and in this next video, that I would point out that there's something, even the Catholics realize something's up. Okay?
So now
Even
now we're going to Catholics. Okay.
Even the Catholics acknowledge. I mean, look, David Montgomery went to First Bossier and stood on the stage of a Baptist church. He's supposed to be Catholic, right? Ain't that what we understand?
Yeah.
Play the Archbishop Carlo Vigiano. I mean, just play him and
Okay.
let's see what he had to say.
Let me get over there to it. Let's see. Publish. Let's make the software act nicely, and let's see what the good Archbishop has to say.
For 2 years now, we have been witnessing a global coup d'etat in which a financial and ideological elite has succeeded in seizing control of part of the national government, public and private institutions, the media, the judiciary, politicians, and religious leaders. All of these, without distinction, have become enslaved to these new masters who ensure power, money, and social affirmation to their accomplices.
Well, I'm going to pause it right there. How much further down the rabbit hole do you want to go with that? I mean,
Well, I think we can wrap it up right there. But here's the thing, and we'll circle back from the Archbishop all the way back to Joe Rogan and his interview. And earlier in the week, you sent me a link to a podcast that I listened to, and it talked about the demise of mainstream media because mainstream media wasn't kind of presenting all the facts. In fact, they were trying to prevent it from getting to people. And so, like right now, I'm looking at the number. It says 79 people watching, and we appreciate all of you guys watching and listening. And there's a reason that there's 79 people watching a freaking guy named Rex Moncrief, who is a fishing gun nut, and a country bumpkin from Halton named Duke Lowry. There's a reason you guys are watching us, and the reason, and the only reason you're watching us, is because you can count on us to tell you how the cow ate the cabbage. We're not going to spin it. We're just going to say it the way it is.
yeah.
That's why you're...
Yeah, none of our spin is spin. We tell you up front, hey, we're giving you our 2 cents on this deal. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And look, a lot of people say negative things about social media, but the fact is social media levels the playing field. We don't need a television station. We don't need a 3-letter acronym, of a media powerhouse to get the word out. All we need is a computer or a phone and an internet connection, and boom, instant audience to get the word out. And if people find it interesting and find it informative, they will continue to listen.
That's exactly right. So, segueing on from mass formation psychosis, everybody is probably wondering, who the heck is this justice of the peace? Maybe that's what we got to... Maybe we hold that in suspense to the end.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let's hold that in suspense for a little bit. We probably need to go ahead and get to our guest. He might be regretting coming on the show since we're talking way off in left field, tinfoil hat, Alex Jones type stuff now, but
Well, we're setting it up for him because we're going to throw him all kinds of curveballs and questions that he didn't know before we started the show. I mean, he's going to be squirming in his seat. It's going to be the ugliest interview of an elected official known to man. So if
let's go ahead and bring him in. We'll get to the SporTran stuff here in a little bit. There's not too much to that. All right, here we go. Hello there, Dennis Bamberg Jr.
Cue up the elected official, huh?
Exactly. Welcome to the hot seat and the land of the crazies.
Are you a victim of, I got to read it again, mass formation psychosis?
Yeah, I'm an expert on it. I researched it while you guys were talking about it, and maybe we can do that at a different show.
Good non-answer.
Yeah.
So Dennis, what's going on with the school board? I mean, we y'all popped up on our radar a little bit earlier in the week, and I don't think there's anything egregious going on, but there was a little bit of stuff that happened that the public needs to know about. Y'all made some changes to the COVID stuff, the mass. Wait, let me read that word again: mass formation psychosis of society.
Well, we had to make a lot of changes to it. We basically shortened the window to 5 days, which I believe with this variant, it transmits pretty easily. So we may have a few students that get close contacted out, but it'll be for 5 days. So maybe we can keep their learning environment as close to normal as possible.
So I went ahead and pulled up and it may be a little small for some of our viewers to read, especially if you're coming in on a mobile phone, and for those people who will be listening to the podcast when we release that. I've got the Bossier Schools COVID guidance revision page, which is on bossierschools.org. And key takeaways are, in the case of a positive COVID case, students and staff members must quarantine for 5 days once fever-free with no medication for 24 hours and no symptoms are present after 5 days. Or if symptoms are resolving, the student or staff may return to school on day 6, but will be required to wear a mask until day 11. Non-compliance will result in the remainder of the 10-day quarantine being completed at home. So my first immediate question is, what is non-compliance? Like if the kid rips their mask off type deal or something like that?
Yeah, if they don't bring a mask to school and they don't want to wear one or something like that, then obviously we want that child probably to stay at home because they still could transmit the virus, and adding that mask till day 10 is what we can do to help stop the spread. So.
Well, Dennis, this might be a little bit of a curveball. Ryan Haygood asks a question. He says, how much did the Bossier Parish School Board get from the CDC for pimping those masks? Are
y'all getting paid a commission?
I mean, would you get a steak dinner at Two John's or something, or what?
To be honest, I looked in the mail for a few days and nothing came, so I kind of gave up on it. But Ryan, appreciate you interjected yourself in that.
Putting him on the spot right out of the gate. Good job.
Yeah.
Okay. So is in all seriousness, Dennis, is Bossier following the mandates or the guidance from the state, or how is this? Is this something that the school board members just came up with, or how does this kind of play out?
Man, it's partially state. I believe the CDC came out with these latest guidelines, and so that's where we're shortening that time frame based on the CDC guidelines.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, a lot of folks. I mean, and I know, I've had some discussions on this subject before. The school board has an attorney, and there's been some connections to the governor, and to kind of that a lot of folks that are the mass formation psychosis, that kind of fall in line there or whatever. I mean, the school board themselves, don't y'all kind of find yourself between a rock and a hard place a little bit with you get advice from an attorney on whether to follow this or follow that. I mean, as a board member, I mean, I feel like maybe you want to be a little bit more aggressive, but you find yourself in the position that you can't. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
Well, we found ourselves in a pretty bad spot because we have the parents that think it should be their decision to whether to mask their child before they come to school or not, and then we have the doctors around town, the physicians that are saying, hey, yeah, masking is a good idea. So it's really the first time that there's been we're listening to the doctors on the safety side and the parents on the parenting side, and those couldn't be further apart for some of the people that were talking to us. So we did the best we could. Our attorney's job is always to protect us, and he tells us that often. He goes, you may not like what I'm telling you, but I'm telling you what protects the taxpayer dollars and what keeps you out of courts and different things like that. So he does his job and he does it well. And some people thought that was a little too much, but I believe he was coming from a stance of let me overprotect you to keep you out of the court system in case you try to do something that is different than what the CDC or the LDH tries to put up on us.
So, do y'all have is this pretty much it in stone? Is there, and maybe you already had it and I just hadn't been paying attention, honestly, but did y'all have another discussion about this at one of the recent meetings, or is there one coming to upcoming meeting, or y'all just went in and kind of laid it out?
We didn't. I believe this decision could be made because it's a CDC guideline, and I think the authority goes back to the superintendent to make some of these changes for us. Now, if they were trying to say, hey, we're going to put masks back on, 24/7, surely that's something that would come in front of the board, but because they were shortening it, we just adhere to the CDC guidelines.
Okay. Now, I'm also reading in the guidance that visitors will be limited on campuses and those visiting will be asked to wear a mask. So,
sure.
With it worded as asked, they're just going to be asked, or they're going to be required, or do you know?
I would think they're probably going to be asked and maybe required because, let's face it, we're going to try to keep our students as safe as possible.
Yeah,
adding anything into that equation.
Like,
what's that?
Like the principal or the vice principal is going to come up and ask, or like the SRO is going to come up and sternly ask.
Maybe the SRO sternly ask. I don't know how we're going to handle that. Probably each school a little differently.
Okay.
But you're bringing out an outside person into the campus, and if that's a risk exposure that you don't have to take, then maybe we don't take that. We're trying to do the best we can with our kids, and
right.
Maybe we ask our visitors to wear a mask.
Yeah, not trying to put you on the spot too much, but we will get asked the question.
No, you're fine.
What do they mean when they're going to ask us to do it? That's the kind of question we'll get.
Well, yeah. People will say, okay, look, you guys didn't ask the tough questions or what have you. Look, Dennis, a lot of people say that, a lot of the decisions that the school boards have made or had to make it was more about money and profit, and I hate to say profit, that ain't the right word, but it was about money, and I've seen just while we're sitting here talking, numerous posts in our show, about CDC money and money for doing this and doing that. What is the situation from the board's perspective? Is it really about the money? Is it about y'all making money? Because I know we're fixing to segue into, having some millage renewals, but at the end of the day, is money the deciding factor in the decisions with the school board or not, or what?
Absolutely not. As far as I know, I've never been told that, hey, if you don't adhere to this 100%, we're going to hold funding back from the state or from the federal government or, anything like that. So it wasn't an ability to try to capitalize money by wearing masks. That was never the case. I think the only thing is some of the points that the board members made was, hey, can we be sued because we are not requiring masks? And that had some of the board members to say, hey, let's do this so we don't get sued and have to pay out money in a legal fight. But it was never about we make money because we adhere to this policy set together by LDH or LDOE or anything like that. So As far as I know, we were never told that they're going to withhold any money from us based on our decisions.
Well, let me expand on that and go down that rabbit hole for a second. So, when the other board members or the parish attorney discuss getting sued, are they more worried about getting sued by the federal government? Are they worried about getting sued by parents, or just in general?
Probably in general, but I mean, if you think about it, if you do something against the CDC or LDH and they give you some guidelines to adhere to, you put some exposure out there. If a child were to come to school and God forbid something happened to that child, even up to death, then I'm sure we would be named in a lawsuit. And sometimes it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong or what your thought processes were around it. They said, hey, you were given a clear guideline by all these departments, and why did you go against them? You could be held liable in a situation like that. So sometimes you listen to your attorneys, and he breaks it down that way, and you're like, is that really worth the risk of taking that? So that's some of the conversations that we were having.
Well, I think it's a positive thing so far that, the masking is going to be encouraged and not necessarily, at least at this point, required. So I think that that's a step in the right direction.
Right.
One other question. As your school board member for District 12, what's your sense of your constituents, the people that have voted for you, percentage-wise for required masking or against required masking? Is it 50-50, 60-40, any kind of sense of that in your district?
I would say it was a little heavier to let it be the parent's decision on the child, but there was surely a group of parents that said, you know what, we want to be as safe as we can. We want everybody to wear a mask. We don't want non-mask wearing to become an issue, so my child has a problem. And they all both came from their heart on trying to protect their children, but they just saw this particular deal in very different lenses.
Okay, and I want to let everybody know I am watching the comments roll by very quickly, so we'll start addressing some of these in a minute. But all right, go ahead, Duke. I've been hogging the mic for a minute, so sorry.
Well, they tons of comments, and so originally what we called you about getting you to come on, it wasn't as much about the COVID guidelines or what have you, but it was more about the renewals, because as you know, we kind of fought, and I would argue you, the school board, the school, and I say we.
Wait,
I mean,
Nick, real quick. You say you're talking about the what? What was the key word there?
The renewal.
Renewal. Okay.
Renewal. So
Okay.
I will say, and for those that are comment a lot in the comment section or what have you, I'll give you credit. You came on here knowing that, you're coming on to go at it with two guys that opposed you in the past. And, but the school system and the school board, Bossier Parish school system, you've got some renewals coming forward, and we need to make sure kind of everybody understands about those. And I'm sure you probably can elaborate a little bit about I think it's 10 mills, and 26 and a half mills for a total of 46 and a half mills worth of renewals coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, these millages mostly fund our current teachers' salaries and benefits, and one of the 10 mills is for maintenance and operations of our schools. This is such an important issue that, basically you can ask your children, hey, do you like your teacher? Because if they say yes, they want you to vote for this proposal, because this would mean mass layoffs, different things like that would happen, and because we wouldn't be able to pay the amount of teachers that we have now. So this goes to pay our current teaching staff, our employees, their salaries and benefits, and then also to help us to maintain our schools.
So to be clear, this isn't a repeat of a couple of years ago, which was, by my math, a 40% increase. This is to maintain, for lack of a better term, a status quo. Truly a renewal of the existing millages, correct?
absolutely status quo. If you like the school system in Bossier, and I believe I've heard the sheriff say that there's two reasons people move to Bossier, and that's because of the safety and because of the schools. And if you like the school system the way it is now, it's a must vote for coming up in April.
An interesting thing you mentioned the sheriff. I'd like to remind everybody that it's actually the sheriff that collects the taxes. He is the tax collector. It's not the tax assessor's office. He's the one that basically values the property and assesses the taxes, but the sheriff's the one that comes and collects them.
Whoa. You mean we can't blame Bobby Evanston?
Full disclosure, I've been fishing with Bobby, so I'm trying to give him a little credit where credit's due. He does take a lot of the heat. All right, so well, go ahead, Duke, and then I'll fire.
Well, I just wanted to reemphasize the point that this is a renewal to operate under what you're already operating under. And, a lot of times people get confused because the wording isn't as clear as it all. I mean, these things are word salad a lot of times. I mean, some lawyer writes this crap up, and Rex, for example, you and I were reading this thing in the beginning, and it's broke up into three parts. And the very first sentence says the renewal for item number 1, but you got to look close. It doesn't say renewal on item 2, and it doesn't say renewal on item 3. So is one to infer that, the first one's a renewal, then the next two are new. But if you went further on down into the document, you will get to a part to where you will see Proposition 1, renewal, Proposition 2, renewal, Proposition 3, renewal.
Yeah, I think the actual resolution apparently at the school board meeting didn't specify up in the very top of it, which is kind of like the summary, but technically I guess it's the actual first part of the resolution. But yeah, you're right, Duke, because that was one of my words. I was like, wait a minute. If I remember my math right, they're already taxing at 65.36 mils, at least back in 2019, unless it's changed. And now they're wanting to add on some more. But as it turns out, it is a renewal for, what did we say our math was earlier? 10, 10, and 26.5. And Dennis, feel free to jump in and correct me anywhere that I'm wrong.
No, that's absolutely correct. I just want to make one thing very, very clear: is all three of these are absolute renewals.
Okay. And when's that election going to be, Duke? Did we have it in our notes? Is that going to be coming up in March or April?
30th.
April 30th, a little after tax day. I think here we go right here.
Now, I would assume that the school boards are going to get out there more so publicly here in the future and talk about this and put a little bit more information out there and to inform the public, correct?
That is correct. I talked to them today, and they'll be out, and they're going to be coming to the South Bossier lunch group. They're going to go to the North Bossier lunch group. They're going to probably talk to anybody who will listen to them. We've already visited with the chamber, and we have their support on this proposed proposition. So we are definitely going to do due diligence so people know exactly what they're voting for when they go to the polls and see this on there.
Yeah, and I pulled up, this is the notice of consideration of action regarding ad valorem taxes. And so I guess y'all are at the school board meeting on January the 20th, which will be a Thursday evening at 6 p.m. at the Bossier Instructional Center where y'all normally have your school board meetings. That meeting there is going to be for folks to come comment on this election. Is that correct?
I believe that's the case. I'm pretty sure that's the case. I just don't have that date directly in front of me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. As long as this is correct, that would be right. All right. So
Now, Dennis, I had another question. I mean, again, it's a little bit of a curveball, but I know you, and I know you can handle up on it. So, and before I get to another question, and I'll prompt you a little early on this one, on the concrete stuff. A lot of people find themselves this day and time disenchanted with public school education. I think it's a lot because of, I think the Department of Education from the federal level and the mandates that come down. And then I think from the state level, I think a lot of people have a lot of problems with, public school education. I think the highest rate of homeschool is actually this past year in the history of Louisiana. I mean, as a guy who sits on a school board, and I know you're a Republican, and you identify as a conservative. You know, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, what that this it seems like there's a wedge kind of, you know, getting between the public and public school education and the future of education, and maybe more so in Bossier Parish, what our ideas of education should be and what should and shouldn't be taught. Where are we going from here in education? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we are in a good place in Bossier. I think we're still uh, a conservative area that lives by some good values in our school system. They've changed all over the country, and surely we'll have that conversation when it comes up in Bossier Parish, and that'll be a battle that we'll have to have at some point in time. But as for right now, I mean, we're growing. We got some data points last week that says in the next 5 years, we will grow 10%. So we'll go from 22,700 to 24,800 students in our school system. So Bossier's doing it right now. Okay, so they're not moving in to Bossier because our school system is not doing it the way that they would like it done. So do we have some disagreements sometimes with people with our school system? Absolutely. You can't have 24,000 kids, and that's should be 48,000 parents that you're trying to make happy, and that's just that's unrealistic as a system. I was a parent in the system, and I hadn't been happy with every decision that was made in Bossier Parish system as well. But you got to look at the overall picture, and I absolutely believe that Bossier's doing a very fine job, one of the best jobs in the state, easily that position.
So speaking of, happy parents and disgruntled parents and all of them in between, what is the best way for somebody? You're over District 12, so if somebody's in your district, or I guess maybe if they just want to know some information in general and want to reach out to you, what's the best way for somebody to reach out to you?
Well, you can go to the Bossier Schools website. It has every school board member. It shows their district. It shows their cell phone number, their email address. So, I mean, you can start a conversation that way. And I know many of my colleagues that have many conversations with people in their constituents, as do I, about the different issues that are going on at the time. And a lot of times when you can talk to them, you can tell them the position with masking. That was one thing. We had a lot of long conversations with constituents, and a lot of times after you told them the position we were in, they would understand. They may not agree with you, but they'd understand what some of the decisions that were being made through the system were about.
Good. All right. Duke, you got any more curveball questions?
Well, one more curveball. All right.
Here we go.
So as you know, we are like the anonymous people, and we get all these anonymous emails about stuff going on in the parish and different governmental entities and all this stuff. So we got this email, I guess it was about a week ago, and somebody wrote to us and said, y'all need to look into a problem pertaining to a school board project. And I think it was in the Halton area, maybe. And it talked about a problem with concrete. Has y'all had any problems with a project, a construction project, and had a problem with concrete, or what is the lowdown on that, or do you know anything?
Yeah, recently we had a project that was going on in the Halton area, and they poured some concrete, and the concrete, while it was tested, while it was wet, it did not pass the test that needed to pass to move forward with the construction project. They gave that project 28 days or 30 days to cure, whatever that is for concrete, and it passed the test when it was fully cured. So it did set us back about 30 days waiting on the results of the fully cured concrete, because we didn't want to move forward, so we kind of held them off the project for 30 days where they wouldn't, if for some reason it did not pass the last test, we wouldn't have to undo things that they had on top of the concrete. But that's about the extent of my knowledge about concrete in the school system right now.
The police jury the police jury jumped up and had a project and said that there kind of wasn't no projects and there was a lot of rumors, and as it would turn out, there actually was a problem with concrete on a project here in Bossier Parish over Black Bayou, and it was a problem with fly ash and the mixture that they had. Do you got any knowledge as to whether or not you know that was an issue with y'all's project?
I've never heard of fly ash before, so
Okay.
I didn't hear that on the email or any change orders or anything like that. So my assumption is everything was normal. It just didn't pass the test until it fully cured.
And just to be aware, our good friend David Womack says, I do concrete. So if you need some advice on the concrete, reach out to David. And Kaylee
David,
Larkin,
send me some comments on what fly ash is, I guess.
yeah, get him educated there, David. Kaylee Larkin asked who poured it. So I don't know if you might know off the top of your head who the contractor was.
Now,
And we have a
Dennis,
contract. I don't know who they use for the concrete.
now, Dennis, as you can imagine, there's a lot of folks would love for us to hit you with a whole lot more questions. And in our comments, I'm seeing it. And I don't think it's as much about you individually as it is, and it goes back to the COVID and the mask stuff. I mean, they're really pouring it on. And
Yeah.
I would say, and I know, I mean, you and I know each other. We're on the Republican Parish Executive Committee together, and I know you guys find yourself between a rock and a hard place. So, and the public has a lot more questions, and they would like to see things moved in a lot more direction. And with that said, I mean, I don't know if you saw this recently. Yeah, you probably didn't, but I saw some calls to recruit candidates to run against every school board member in every parish across the whole state of Louisiana. And it was primarily because people didn't feel like that their school boards were following, what the public wanted versus following what the governor was trying to, by edict put down on everybody. So I say that to ask you this question, and it's somewhat of a curveball. I think I already know the answer from you because I know you, but and this goes to Bossier City as well. I mean, do you think it's time that we have term limits for school board members? I mean,
We have term limits already.
You have term limits already. What are they? Because I got to be honest with you, I don't know.
They're after 3 consecutive terms, which is 12 total years.
so
Really?
So you can serve for 3 consecutive, someone else be elected, then you could potentially come back for a 4th term after that. Or has anybody ever tried that?
I guess you could come back and run a 4th, 5th, and 6th term after you set one out. I don't know how that is,
Yeah.
But I mean, we were in a tough spot, like I said, with the mask and whatever questions you have out there. I've heard them, I can promise you. And the only thing I can tell you for my fellow school board members is we were put in a pretty tough spot when you have, some parents completely saying it's our decision, and we can't find one single physician in town that will say masks are a terrible idea. And so we're sitting on one of our main things that we try to tell you every time that we visit is how we take your child's safety and concern, and we try to keep them as safe as they can at schools. And when we ask the physicians, they say masking is a great idea. It should be done. And then when the parents are saying it should be our decision, I mean, where do you fall in that? I mean, that's where the school board's my fellow members' heads were at in that conversation. Was I've got doctors telling me that's the safest way to treat the children, and then you got parents showing you other literature from across the country where there's other issues that go along, with that thought process as well. So it was really, really, really a tough spot during those times to listen to parents want to make their own decisions for their children, and I'm 1,000% behind that. And it would have made it a very easy decision had we had a couple of physicians around town that would say, "Hey, man, we think what they're saying is absolutely correct," but we just didn't have that, so we were split among the the people who know everything about that we trust with, when you get sick or when you have diseases to treat us, those people are telling us that masks are a good idea. And then the parents who we have to deal with every day are saying, hey, we think it should be our decision. It was a very, very tight spot to sit in and try to figure out the best way to handle that.
Well, they're not cutting you much slack tonight either. I'm kind of rolling through the comments here, which are now flooding in, and we've got ignoring emails. You've been a pickle and baloney tonight, and our public schools are overpaid daycare. So that's the commentary so far tonight. People are still very passionate about that whole situation.
And they should be. I mean, that's their children, and I mean that's the one thing about the school board. Some people have the luxury to go to Washington D.C. and vote, or handle their vote down in Baton Rouge, but we get to stand here in the public eye with their main loved one there is their children, and we get to make decisions for their children, on a daily basis. And sometimes it's tough to make the right decision. Sometimes, I'm not saying we always make the right decision, but I can promise you that we take that job very seriously.
So, I know you relatively well from, let's just say, past political things and all that. And just so folks know, because I'm watching these comments roll in now, the reason that I'm not, we're trying to have a nice interview is because I sincerely believe that you're absolutely for the parents' decisions. But like you said,
absolutely,
you got two sides tugging at you. And folks, maybe y'all need to, here's a hint, maybe you need to have some actual doctors show up at the meetings and have some actual physicians to counter some of these arguments, because I can see the pickle that you're in, to quote one of the comments earlier, on both sides of this coin. And I'm not a pro-mask mandate person at all, but I can see the position that y'all get stretched in.
Well,
I'm not a pro-masker either. I'm just not. I don't like them. I think there's issues that we've had people come in and tell us all the problems that occur because you're wearing a mask. And when you can't see mouth, pronunciation from teachers, it affects the learning. There's all kind of reasons to not wear a mask every day. And we as a board 100% understand some of that stuff. But the hard part was when, the people we trust with our lives in their hands, and they're telling us that, hey, you really should wear a mask. It wasn't about what the governor was telling us. It wasn't about what the CDC was telling us. It was about what some of our local physicians were telling us, and that made it a really tough spot. So what we did is as soon as they would relinquish some of the issues, we gave the authority to the superintendent to just make that immediate. And we put a back to school start that I thought was very effective. And then they came up with a mandate, and we did go out and say, hey, as soon as the mandate's over, we go back to what we started the school year with. So I think we were proactive, trying to get it back to normal as fast as we can, but we wanted to maximize the ability for these children to learn in an in-school setting.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm going to start addressing some of the comments here for a second, so go fire away, Duke.
Well, I am going to get you to send me that term limits thing, because I have looked for that and I have not seen it. I'm not saying it's not correct. I'm not at all saying that. I just haven't found it. But and that was something that was shot
put in place probably 7 years ago.
7 years ago? Okay, so that's not. It's been
a
recent. Yeah, because I was fixing to say, I think some of the existing board members have probably been. They're pushing the limits, right?
Well, what they did is when they put term limits on, they allowed them to start as a new board member and gave them 3 terms from that point forward. So everybody, when I came in, the year that I was elected to that position, every person started their time clock at 12 years starting that point.
Gotcha. Good deal. Yeah, and like Rex said, that wasn't when we originally talked. We didn't intend on this show blowing up about COVID, and but the comments are like really, it's pretty amazing. I would commend you because you've known this has been a hot topic, and I would say that
Sure.
uh, my opinion is you've been on the right side of the issue. Um, you're one vote amongst how many of you guys got up there? 7,
12.
12. Yeah, see my math. I mean, I went to Halton. I mean, it come down to what the limit was, but you know, you're one vote out of all of those, and I know y'all have had there's been a little bit of a group of you guys that have fought for some things. I mean, everybody watching the show should know. I guess you could say there's people on the right side of things and people on the wrong side of the thing fighting on the inside. And my take has been that, Dennis, you've been one of those guys fighting to steer things in the right direction. And I'm certainly not going to take occasion to beat you up over it. And when I know you've been trying to do good, maybe we can do some good on the Republican Parents Executive Committee and steer that one in the right direction. We've got some holdouts on doing the right thing, and we'll let you get off the show to talk about that one.
Yeah, don't include me on that one.
Yeah, we've already drug you far enough down the rabbit hole and down the drain tube as it is, I suppose.
Well, hopefully it wasn't too much torture, and Dennis, we appreciate you coming on, and I hope it wasn't too much of a side swipe.
No, it wasn't too bad.
All right, yeah, and like Duke said, we appreciate you coming on, Dennis. We're at over 100 people watching right now, and some of them pretty active in the comments. This is pretty much like the school board meeting about the mask. But we appreciate you coming on and taking a couple of, little curveball questions. And
well, I'll finish by this saying our prayers that we don't have to deal with COVID anymore. So that's kind of what we're hanging our hat on from here on out, is that we don't have to get in the middle of making a decision like that again. That this COVID will be gone for good, and hopefully we can just go and educate kids what we're good at doing.
Amen, brother.
Introduce your cohorts on the school board to mass formation psychosis.
I think I'll put that on the next agenda.
There you go.
We'll talk in German, and we'll try to figure this thing out.
There you go. All right. Well, Duke, let's let Dennis get out of the hot seat, and we will continue on down the rabbit hole.
Down the rabbit hole we go.
All right.
Good
Thanks
night,
a lot,
Dennis.
Dennis. You too. Well, that was interesting.
It was interesting. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are probably PO'd at us and probably wanted us to go a whole lot further.
Yeah, somebody was doubting watching us tonight. I think that's the first time we've heard that comment. I mean, people have called us a lot of things and a lot of names, but that's the first time somebody's doubted whether they should actually watch tonight. But hey, we got some information from Dennis.
Brandy Pugh posted that. She's like, I'm doubting watching you guys.
Golly.
I mean, but okay, look. And Dawn's throwing a rock at us. I mean, okay, guys, look. You gotta ease into these things with some of these folks and kind of get down the road a little bit. And I don't know.
Well, look, Dennis had a good point, and he fully admitted what his personal beliefs are as far as the mask and all of that. And, look, I hate it as much as the next person when any politician that's on a board or a committee says, well, I'm only one vote on the committee, because they know good and well that they can influence other votes as well. But there is a good point that, there are a couple of board members who are not pro-masking the kids as a mandate. But again, they're not enough votes for the majority, and that seems to be the problem. Now, I know somebody will probably call me out and go back and check their voting records on their little resolutions or whatever they had. That's fine too. But I can say with certainty that there are a couple of board members that would just as soon not have any mask mandates.
Looking at
completely optional. If somebody wants to wear a mask, fine.
Looking at a couple of comments, and Dawn Thomas says one, many of us have had face-to-face conversations with him, and y'all were being way too nice. Dawn, I'm not going to disagree with you. We were being very nice. You are exactly right. Brandy Pugh says you're a school board member, you listen to your constituents. Absolutely. She's 100% correct.
She is 100% correct. But you also have to remember that while the school board members, just like with the city council or anything else, while Dennis is elected by the people in his district, he doesn't take an oath to represent only the people in his district. Folks, y'all got to remember that. Just because, a city councilman, just because I don't know, pick another board, police jury member or whatever, is elected by those particular people, the oath of office does not say anything about representing only those constituents who actually voted for them. And sometimes people forget civics. So you have to remember that, even if the majority of folks in his district are against or for something, whatever the case is, he's got to make the best decision that he can, whoever the person is. And I'm not just sitting here trying to take up or carry water for Dennis, because look, he did come on the show. How many of our local politicians have actually come on this show to take the heat and take the questions? Very few. And they've all been invited, and they all know how to get in touch with us. So I'll give him credit that at least he did come on the show to take the heat and take the comments.
Yeah, and originally in our show notes, that really wasn't what we had him on to even talk about in the first place. That was not the plan of what we were going to talk. We were more focused on the taxes and the renewals. What was this, a new tax or was this renewals? That was the primary objective of bringing him on. Perhaps, perhaps we need to have a follow-up and, really get down in the weeds with any of the school board members that want to come on and talk about the other subject. I mean,
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'm going to put up a couple of comments. So Barry Saunders says, come on, Rex, I get what you're saying, but you're here for your constituents. Look, we're here. We got 103 people watching right now, and we do have some folks who are admitted Democrats, and that's fine. And I don't know whether they would consider themselves liberal or not, but we welcome all of those people. And so, I don't know. Maybe the best quote was it Ghostbusters 2? We don't want to scare the straights yet. And I don't mean that in a LGBT whatever sense. If we ask a guest to come on and we immediately come out and attack them, then that presents a problem. We would rather get them on, and Dennis was very frank and honest in his commentary right there about how he feels about masks. Now, that's about probably as honest as we can get it without just going all out into attack mode.
Yeah,
so we try to find a balance between it.
Yeah, and the balance is, and look, this is a long game. We're not in a short game, and I can't keep my eyes from looking at these comments. Somebody's calling for me to be a defensive back for LSU. Are you kidding me? I'm 5'5". All I gotta do is throw it over my head. So, I mean, look, you get bits and pieces. You can't take the bite out of this apple with all these elected officials in one big, huge bite. You've got to take little bitty bites. I mean, whether you guys realize it or not, we got a little bit out of Dennis Bamberg. Dennis Bamberg isn't going to be a school board member forever. Dennis Bamberg has aspirations to move on. Dennis Bamberg is going to continue to be a politician. And whether you realize it or not, we did get him pinned down on a few little items. And we'll hold him accountable moving forward into the future. I would tell you that I know for a fact in some conversations pertaining to the COVID issue and the masks and all, he was on the right side of things. I mean, you cannot believe me on that. You can believe me on that. I'm going to carry his water on it, and I'm going to tell you he was on the right side. That's all there is to it. I mean,
and look, let me even throw this out there, because we do stand to be corrected if we're wrong as well. If you got a point in a particular meeting where, whether it's Dennis or any other guest that comes on, and they say something counter to what we are claiming that they say, then direct us to the video, direct us to where they say it, and we'll gladly roll the video on a future show, and we'll stand to be corrected. So it's that simple. We try to be as transparent as we can. Okay, so moving on.
I can't move on. Brandy
It's hard to
Pugh
do it,
made
isn't
another- Brandy Pugh, you aren't on the right side unless you're on the side with the parents.
Which parents,
I agree
Brandy?
with her. I agree with her.
I agree with her too, but which parents? It's
Yeah.
it's a simple question. Which parents? I agree with you, Brandy. I am not for mask mandates. I'm for, if somebody wants to wear a mask, great, but it shouldn't be mandated to everybody. I know the science behind the mask. I know the particle sizes, the whole 9 yards. I know the discrepancy between what the CDC was recommending and now all of a sudden, oh, well, we need N95s to actually stop these particles. The Omicron particles, which sounds like a Transformer movie. It sounds like a Decepticon. But anyway, the Omicron particles didn't magically shrink from the original
We're
virus.
facing a bigger issue than just the local school board. It's our whole freaking government. It's, from Bossier City all the way to Washington, D.C. and Mike Johnson. It's mass formation psychosis because you got all these freaking masked Nazis doing all this stupid crap. The freaking VA will literally make you take off an SCBA to put on their stupid paper mask that won't stop the dust particle of a fart, because it's their policy.
Well,
I mean, it is madness going on in our society. And the only way that we're going to get out of it is if people pull their head out of their ass and start thinking with common sense and being human.
Agreed. It's like the epitome of it is, I don't know if you've seen the video from the lady who, she and this gentleman on a flight were in an argument and they were going back and forth. She was demanding he put on his mask and wear it while she had her mask pulled off. And she's screaming at him. And I mean, they called each other a few choice words. I don't know if the air marshals like zip tied her or duct taped her or whatever. But anyway, she ended up like getting arrested for assault. But she's literally screaming at this guy to wear his mask while she has her mask pulled off. That is the epitome of this whole situation. And that's the hypocrisy and the irony of the whole situation. So anyway.
And this mass formation, I keep going back to that mass formation psychosis because that is exactly what it is, but it's all of us. It's even everybody. Look, there's a lot of people that are woke and there's a lot of people that have been going along. I would argue that we have all been a part of this mass formation psychosis for a long time because we've been letting government as a whole, it's separate and apart. It's bigger than just this mask, vaccine crap. It's bigger than that. We let our congressmen, we let our legislators all go to Baton Rouge. We let all these politicians go and just do what they want. We don't show up at meetings. We don't hold them accountable. Shed Road, Rex, tell me right now, there's 100+ people watching this show right now. How many of you have all showed up at a Bossier City Council meeting and demanded to know what was the cost of the 8 digits that would be the expense for the Shed Road?
Yeah, where did the number come from? Who pulled it out of the rear end?
There's 100 people. Tell me how many people of this 100 people have showed up at a Bossier City Council meeting and demanded to know that?
Yeah. Like, where's the recall effort? South Bossier folks.
I've not seen one jackwagon show up and ask the question. Your freaking councilman and your mayor don't even have the courage to ask Man Buck down there. They ain't even got the courage to ask him. None of them do. They're watching the show. We'll probably drop. I mean, how many of them are there? There's 6, 7, 8 of them, and counting the mayor. I mean, we'll see the number drop below 100, but they freaking ain't even got the gonads to ask the question. I'm sorry, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I asked the question. I'm glad Bambird answered it. I really did not know. I saw, somebody had said something about term limits. It's going on in Bossier. I really didn't know about the school board. But, I would argue, look, I like Dennis. I do like Dennis. But you know what? Truth of the matter is somebody should challenge him. In fact, somebody should challenge somebody for every elected official, every seat, every position, and we should talk about every issue. There should be challenges. Rex, if you were in a district and I lived in your district and nobody was going to run against you, I should run against you and challenge you on the votes you've taken and the positions that you've took. I mean, you should be challenged and had to answer for them, and there should be a maximum number of terms that you can serve for everything.
Agreed, 100%. I'm all for
Yeah,
term limits for everything, for every office, including judges. These lifetime appointments kill me too. I understand the reasoning behind it, but I don't know. Okay, so now that we're lost way down that rabbit hole, I want to address a couple of other things because, and Brandy, you're doing great comments, so we appreciate them all, but let me find this one. Hold on here. This has woken up so many people. Okay. It has. And there's a lot of issues that have woken up in a lot of people, but the problem is, Brandy, the follow-up. It literally is. Because we can all talk about voting these people out of office. We can talk about recalls. How many people actually, I mean, I know there is a certain percentage that have and that are homeschooling, and that's great. I'm a huge fan of homeschooling. We homeschooled 3 of our 3 boys. But how many people of you have actually pulled your kids completely out of school? And not just in our particular group here that is watching tonight, but how many people overall? The percentage is low. Now, there was a good group that showed up at the school board meeting where they were discussing the mask mandates, and who was it? Adam Bass got up and did his soliloquy and all that. But you know how many people have been at those school board meetings after that? Not many. And so the school board members that y'all are all talking about, when you don't continue to keep showing up, they go, oh, well, they've lost interest. They've gone and put their pitchforks and torches up, so we're good.
That's exactly right.
That's the problem.
J.J. Lewis, Jack Wagon, classic. That never gets old. You see that post?
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, you got to see that one. Jack
Wagon.
Oh,
here we go. Yep, I got it right here. Yeah.
Now, the reason I point that out, that never gets old. Now, you know what, J.J. Lewis? What never gets old is Steve Pinnell. And you know what never gets old about that is you ain't cool if your chrome don't shine. So I'm going to go tomorrow to Bossier City, and I'm going to go do an inspection of chrome, and I'm going to take it up with Chief Zagoni, because if your chrome don't shine, you ain't cool. And I'm going to say that Steve Pinnell directed me to do that. A lot of people are like, what in the hell are they talking about?
Way down some kind of
You're even going, what is he talking about?
It's got to be a fireman thing.
It's got to be a fireman thing.
Yeah. If it was a bass boat thing, there's only 2 things that matter. It's going fast and looking good. Doesn't really matter how many fish you catch. All right, anyway.
So, hey, I'm thinking about getting me a free ride on SporTran tomorrow. What about you?
We need to. We've been threatening to do that. We need to actually go for that ride because, and let me see if I can get back to screenshots and get myself organized here. But yeah, they're actually doing free rides now. So let me get this pulled up here. This is that zero fare thing that they're doing. Okay, here we go. This is press release from yesterday. And I'll read this out for the folks that are listening and the ones that are on phones that can't read the small print. SporTran, let me put on my radio announcer voice. SporTran is pleased to announce that fares for all vehicles and services inside the Shreveport-Bossier City limits will be free to the public for 2022 and 2023. The move to zero fare ridership was made possible by a federal grant, which will cover the fare cost of SporTran bus and on-demand travel in the SporTran service area. Zero fare began Sunday, January 22nd, 2022. SporTran President and CEO Denaro Washington is excited about the impact zero fare will have on passengers. All right, I'm done reading all that.
I just want to ride for free.
I just want to ride for free. Now,
I just want to ride for free.
Now, I'm going to ask this question to the audience, and you can just answer it with a simple yes or no and then expand all you want. Is there ever a free lunch? Is there ever a free lunch? And by extension, is there ever a zero fare public bus ride? Yes or no?
Well, golly geez, I hate to go back. Dawn Thomas, she made another good post.
That
That
long one
gum
right there.
Dawn. Yeah, that gum Dawn.
All right, let's while we're giving people a chance to ask about or to answer about zero fares and free lunches, let's add that one. All right, here we go.
Yeah, because you know what? This jumps back to the Bossier City Council as well too. Think about the Colonel.
Well, okay,
Remember remember
yeah, but the
remember
colonel is at a lot of the meetings,
oh,
and he
he's at
gets
all
up
the meetings.
and
Yeah,
he
but
knows how to
Don, like,
segue into
but
turning the conversation how he wants it
he
to.
he does. But think about something though. Don just points out we don't continue to go to the meetings just to have them sit up there and act like condescending overlords and not paying attention to anything we say. I mean, the Colonel has repetitively and done it. And what was one of the last things he did? He had David, the cockroach of the year, basically putting his thumb down on him and hammering him down.
But he
Like,
also had King David open his mouth and change his own feet. And see, that's the problem. Dawn, you're
and make-
correct.
and make
Oh,
mistakes. And make mistakes.
yeah, let me go find my cardboard box and jump up on this thing. Here's the problem, Dawn. Is let me get the comment back up there, because you are correct, Dawn, that some benevolent overlords in office do want to sit there and act like they're condescending overlords and that they're not paying attention, but they are. You don't understand. Raise their blood pressure. Just by you being there and saying anything, it raises their blood pressure, whether they're being condescending or not. And eventually they're going to make mistakes. And when they say something stupid, then you figure out how to issue a comment on what's on the agenda and twist that into what you actually want to say, because then they can't call for point of order and get the marshal to escort you out. You have to understand how to twist those comments. And then you piss them off even more, and then they say something really stupid, and we all have the sound bites. And then we can make them look like complete idiots when they run for office again. It's a simple formula, and it works.
One of these days, I'm going to run that son of a bitch over with a Zamboni.
See there? Now, I agree with you, Dawn, and I'm not trying to sound condescending, but I'm just telling you how this works.
We don't shop around here.
Yeah, they're going to say dumb stuff, and it's going to get caught on a mic or on video, and we're going to broadcast it and play it over and over on social media. And that's how you beat them at the game. This is the great equalizer. Whether it's our show, whether you start your own, whatever it is, whether you just post it on social media, it is the great equalizer, because people hate to be embarrassed. They just do. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
All right, so I just want to know, has anybody, we're still sitting at about 100 people watching. Is there anybody who can tell me what the 8 digits in expenses for Shed Road? Can y'all tell me what that was? What were the expenses exactly? Was that from moving 10 bulldozers by way of lowboys and parking them on a yard that was rented for 3 months prior to the Shed Road? Can any of y'all tell me 8 digits worth of expense for the Shed Road crossing project? Can anybody tell me that? I'm dying to know, because I haven't heard it from any councilman in Bossier City, and certainly not the mayor and the city attorney. I mean, good gosh. I mean, we've got Freedom of Information Act requests. I mean, actually, they're public information requests that he's been sitting on for months, and no response, whatever. Said it in the last show, and I think Mark Smith chimed in. If you already know the answer, then why would you ask the question? And I really wanted to answer that question last show, but hey, Mark, maybe it's because we want to see what the city attorney and the mayor, which position are they going to take? Are they going to take the position that they're going to ride the train with, Ruttenbuck, or are they going to get off the train? You're at a crossroads. You got to make a decision. What's it going to be? Maybe that's why you asked the question.
Speaking of Shed Road, did you happen to glance down when you drove by it earlier to see if the concrete had been torn up, or did you happen to notice?
I did notice that there was some kind of excavation going on over there. I didn't get to get a picture of it, but I did notice some excavation. I did.
Oh, so yeah, maybe that excavator over there with one of the little jackhammer things, whatever that's called. David Womack probably would know. So maybe they were actually busting concrete. or doing
I
something
think
constructive?
I think they were digging to find 8 digits is what they were trying to find. They were trying to find the answer to the 8-digit question. I don't know if they're going to find it there. I think they're going to have to go a little further north.
Follow the little map. They're going to be standing out there with a little, kids' treasure map looking for the 8-digit treasure chest. Okay, so that's pretty much our Shed Road update. It's still closed. They're going to dig it up because they got blackmailed by the railroad. Pretty much.
So, before we move off of Bossier, there's no way we can move off of Bossier because the next after is Shane McWilliams. We got to wrap up the Shane McWilliams saga. But Charter Commission, we've been talking about that in multiple shows and talking about how there needed to be one and there needed to be changes. And, we took the liberty today and pointed out a couple of changes in cut 5, 6, and 7 that needed to take place in the city charter. So all of you watching in Bossier City that care about the city charter and think that things need to change, these are a few of the changes that we recommend. And in the first one, I think that's cut 5, correct?
Yep,
Rex?
Yep, that's cut 5. The first one here, the underlined portion, talks about who the mayor shall be, blah, blah, blah. But it says, no person who has been elected to serve as mayor of the city of Bossier for more than 2.5 terms in 3 consecutive terms, that service being during a full term of office that began on or after July 1st, 2021, shall be elected to the office of mayor of the city of Bossier City for the succeeding term. That sounds like a little bit of word salad. Basically, it's a term limit for the mayor.
Basically, that's a term. That's a term limit for the mayor, and that's from us. We went ahead and did the homework for you guys. Whoever, there you go. Term limits for the mayor. You got it right there. There's no excuse. If everybody supports term limits, which I think, Chandler supported term limits.
Well, he
almost
said he
all
did.
Said he did, but he said a lot of things. He said, he was going to stand by Shane Cheatham to be a CAO. He's his guy. We got it on video.
He did stand right beside him with a knife.
He said it. I didn't see the knife. I didn't see the knife, but he did say it.
Yeah, the knife hidden behind his back. Figuratively speaking.
But he did say something about term limits. So I'm just wondering. There it is, right there. So term limits for the mayor.
Yeah.
Moving along, cut 6.
We're
saving y'all the effort of the time. It's already ready right here. Term limits for the council seats.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people may wonder, then they would say, oh, okay, well, term limits for the councilman. Yeah, you got that down there. Well, are you talking about the at-large council seats or are you talking about the regular council seats? Well, that would imply that there's a different makeup for the existing structure of the council. So go to cut 7 and let's look at makeup and what is the makeup or a recommended makeup. Now here there could be some dispute from folks because as it is right now, you have 5 districts and you got 2 at large. Well, why don't we just do away with the at-large seats and let's just now Chris Smith may be pissed off about that. We know David Montgomery, he'd be mad about it. He'd be mad about anything.
We don't care about David, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but let's just do away with the at-large seats and let's make straight 7 city council districts across the city. What do y'all think about that?
I'd have to say I'm in a toss-up on that one. I'd have to think about that one for a little bit.
And a toss-up? Are you kidding? What do you want? You want a north at-large district and a south at-large district? Is that where you're going?
We already got that. Although I would say Chris Smith as the at-large councilman is not just looking out for the South. I would say with almost 100% certainty that David Montgomery is looking out for the North. But here's the thing is, let me play devil's advocate here and give you my challenge to that. It goes back to some of the comments we had earlier that, oh, well, people have this tendency to think, and elected politicians do, that I'm only looking out for the people in my district. Yes, you should represent them. Yes, they should very heavily influence your vote, or the majority of them should. But that ain't what your oath of office says. And there's where I have a rub with that.
Now, I think we can go back and pull it, but I'm pretty sure that was one of the campaign issues of Tommy Chandler, was that he was going to call for a charter commission. Like right out of the gate, you've got a full seated city council, and there's no reason to not move forward now, because here's the thing, and for all of you watching, if the mayor doesn't call for a charter commission now, it won't take place before the next elections. He would by ignoring it now would basically be deferring it to where everybody that's currently elected would enable them to have another term. He would be basically going against what he campaigned on.
Well, that wouldn't be so unusual.
So I'm wondering, everybody watching, what do you guys think about 7 straight city council districts, doing away with the at-large districts?
Well, we've had a couple of comments. So, of course, I'm not 100% for it. Again, I'd have to think it through a little more. David Johnson says, I say no, we need at-large. Our good friend Barry Butler, who is also a former police juror, says there are no at-large police jurors, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's correct, that's the way it should be. Let me correct myself on that. Let's see, what else? Barry Butler says he's good with just 5. Okay, so we do have a little bit of commentary on that. I don't know, I'd have to think about that a little bit.
Okay, well, everybody chew on that one a little bit, but be thinking about it, because, it needs to happen. And if the mayor doesn't have the cojones to bring it forward and push for a charter commission, I would say that one of our council members need to push it to a vote, because everyone, and I hate to wear this word out, but everybody liked it earlier. I don't know. They got off on me using the word jackwagons. But I don't know. It's like nobody's ever. Have you ever heard? You've heard that before. You've heard me say that before.
Yeah.
I thought that was a common term. I thought everybody used the word jackwagons. I mean, is that like a Halton thing that nobody? I don't know. Anyway,
I've heard it before Halton and before certain movies.
Okay, well, anyway, these jackwagons in Bossier, I mean, you guys need to push your councilman or whatever. If the mayor ain't got the cojones to do it, then one of your councilmen needs to put it forward, and this has got to happen. I mean, We're done waiting. Chandler, he campaigned on it. He said he was going to move forward and make some changes. If he doesn't have the cojones to move forward and get it done, he campaigned on term limits. He campaigned on these things. I mean, he didn't stand by Shane Cheatham. He's already moved off of some of his commitments. I mean, arguably, one of the only commitments that I think that he made that he's standing by is regarding the police chief of Bossier City.
Well, yeah, but he bungled that up. He turned something relatively simple into the most complicated piece of soap opera drama that we've seen in a while.
Well, he did bungle that up. And I'm throwing a rock on public information requests for information. I'm blaming it on the city attorney, but the truth of the matter is, who is the custodian of records?
Technically, is it the mayor?
It's actually Tommy Chandler. So if the city attorney is dragging his feet or refusing to give us legally requested documents, and I would argue in an attempt to hide things or to prevent us from receiving things, arguably, ultimately, it falls on Mayor Tommy Chandler. It's because of him.
Yeah, it does. And let's go off on a little bit of a tangent for a second, but it's related to this. So Dawn Thomas has got another good comment. She says, y'all need to wake up. I'm assuming this is before she leaves Bossier Parish, which she said she was leaving Bossier. Or leaving Bossier City, I guess. Anyway, she says, y'all need to wake up. There are no true conservatives on any political chair in Bossier Parish. Now, Dawn, I would actually tend to agree with that for the most part. Here's what I would challenge you to do. Define conservative in one paragraph. Define conservative in one paragraph. Okay. Next topic, Duke. Or wherever we are, I'm sorry.
You got me thinking conservative, and I like that, and I don't recall exactly where it was, but somebody was talking about, maybe it was in a podcast, maybe it was something. You and I think, covered this, but somebody was saying, look, conservative is not Republican or Democrat. It's somebody who believes in, because you could be a Democrat and believe in limited government. You could be a liberal and believe in not spending taxpayer dollars. I mean, and it really set me back, made me think just a little bit, because being a Republican and conservative, in which that's so jaded because everybody says they're conservative.
Oh, yeah, everybody says it.
But you know what? I think I am. Maybe I'm not conservative. Maybe I'm not a conservative. You got me wondering.
Hey, who knows these days?
I thought I was. I mean, when Ryan Gaddy says I'm the most conservative guy he knows, that makes me think I'm pretty conservative.
Wait, Ryan Gaddy told you that?
He did tell me that.
Wow, I'm impressed.
He told me that.
I was trying to find my official definition of conservative, but mine's, well, I'm not going to say it yet because I've asked Dawn to define it in one paragraph. So
we'll wait till Dawn defines it.
Yeah.
David Jones says,
all right, well, let me do Ryan's and then I'll put David's up because I'd already hit the button. But Ryan Haygood says, who tricked Tommy into pushing through the city attorney?
I don't know that Tommy had a choice. I think
he was advised not to do that. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, he knew not to do it, but
And here's David's comment. Let me read this because it's kind of long for those of you that are just listening. I think this is from David Jones, former city councilman. I think at-large is a joke. The accountability is much more prevalent when representation is defined. Most people get mad at their district person and don't even know what at-large is. I would argue a lot of people don't even know who their district councilman is. Chris played the game and pulled it off in a low turnout and said, just vote for one. The math screws the intent. Interesting take. Can't argue with that. But I would also argue a lot of people who don't know who their city councilman is any more than they know who the at-large is or even what an at-large member is. I would argue a lot of them don't even know what the city council does. We do because we live in a skewed little bubble here, all of us, and especially folks that are watching the show.
All right, so Rex, what I want to know is how did the Civil Service Board meeting for Shane McWilliams, police chief of Bossier City, go this morning?
I can tell you how it went. I think it was, I thought the last one was going to be the shortest meeting on record, but I think this one topped it because, well, they canceled it.
They canceled it? Well, Wait a minute. We got an anonymous email that basically laid the law down on what was all happening.
Yes, we did, and as a matter of fact, we may show a copy of that here in a second, but I want to pull up, this is from the Civil Service Board's website, notice of cancellation of public hearing January 4th, 9 a.m., and, well, I would show a copy of that, but it literally just in red letters says the meeting was canceled for today. So, yeah, they canceled it, and I'm pretty sure we all know why and can all read the writing on the wall. But let me see if I can find that email here. Here we go. Let me make sure I got this thing ready to show publicly. Okay, so this was one of the emails that came into our Proton mail. I'll share the details out because there's nothing in here that's identifying. Says, blah, blah, blah. Good morning, guys. As you know, the civil service hearing for Shane is tomorrow at 9 a.m. This was sent yesterday. He was served with papers last week telling him that a pre-disciplinary board is today at 3 p.m. That would have been today, Tuesday. No, I'm sorry. Would have been yesterday, Monday. I'm sorry, Monday at 3 p.m. yesterday. The city has apparently hired a PI and to look into things he supposedly did wrong. The PI found he crashed the city computer 5 years ago, and there are supposedly aftermarket parts on the city expedition. The mayor is going to terminate him today at 3 o'clock, which again would have been yesterday at Monday. But we all know what happened yesterday, don't we?
I think we do. Everybody kind of covered that, but what happened?
Well, let's look at the press release from the mayor's office. I don't think we've heard from Shane, and honestly, I doubt we will. But this is the PR release from Tommy Chandler's office. It says Bossier City Police Chief Shane McWilliams announces retirement. This is again from Tommy. Chief Shane McWilliams and I had a meeting today, and we're able to find a path forward on behalf of the city of Bossier City. Chief Shane McWilliams informed me that he is retiring from the Bossier City Police Department effective immediately. And this was yesterday. I want to thank Chief McWilliams for his many years of service to the city of Bossier City and its citizens. Bossier City is known and respected for its excellent record of public safety. Chief McWilliams served as the 14th Bossier City Chief of Police and led the department through many changes and challenging times. I congratulate Chief McWilliams on his well-earned retirement. I can't even read this with a straight face anymore. From the Bossier City Police Department, and wish him a successful future.
Now, wait a minute. I mean, everybody just posted this. Bossier Now, I mean, all the news media outlets, like, this was just, I mean, it was all wrapped up tidy with a bow. And boy, it sure seems like all this got tidied up real nice and clean all of a sudden. And no more story. End of story, right?
Well, anybody ought to be able to see through this. You're telling me that the same mayor, being Tommy, who came in, appointed, what did he call, and nothing against Estes, but what did he call Estes first? Was it substitute or temporary police chief, or I don't know, whatever it was. Then, oops, we can't do that. After supposedly at midnight they sent out a bunch of emails and rearranged schedules and all that. Tommy puts McWilliams at the front desk. McWilliams decides he's taking his toys and going home, and he doesn't show up for that. And they go through all this kerfuffle. Then there's, from the mayor's office, this state police investigation. There's this internal investigation, and they're looking into wrongdoing, innocent until proven guilty, except you're really considered guilty until you actually have to prove yourself innocent. And then all of a sudden he's congratulating him on his dadgum, retirement one day before the Civil Service Board hearing. Really?
Christy
Really?
Humphrey says shameful. Don Thomas says, by the way, who was indicted? And David Jones says, everybody was trying to figure out how to hug Jell-O. Just put it in the bowl.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, David. Just put the Jell-O in the bowl. I mean, this is, we've discussed this ad nauseum, so I'm not going to spend much time on it tonight, but this was something that should have been relatively simple for the mayor to do and work something out with McWilliams, who by all accounts was going to retire soon anyway. And instead it had to turn into this drama.
Wait a minute, Rex. You said work this out? Are you implying something?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm implying that Tommy shouldn't have had his head up his ass.
Oh. I thought you were implying something else.
Oh, like, a little scratch of the back kind of thing?
Is that the same thing as incentive?
Depends on what circle you're in.
I mean, incentive is, what is that? Incentivization? From Halton.
For you Halton folks out there.
Yeah, it's Halton folks have a little
about
problem
concubines and all that.
Yeah, we got that one covered. But incentivization. I mean, that's a Bossier City thing apparently. But yeah, incentivization. That's my understanding. In fact, would you believe, Rex? Not only did I get one call as soon as this, well, I shouldn't say as soon as this broke, before this broke, I got not one call, but two calls saying there was incentivization coming Shane McWilliams' way for this to happen.
Well, if he got a peaceful retirement bonus, maybe. I guess that's legit. Is it? I don't know much about how the civil service stuff and, bonuses and retirement and all that work. You would know more than, me as a retired fireman and all that sort of thing. But I guess that would be kosher.
Well, I mean, I mean, it would save attorney fees all the way around. And, if I'm Shane McWilliams, why the hell would I want to stay there and, have somebody angling at me the whole damn time anyway when I know I'm not wanted? I mean, if there was an offer of incentivization, hell yeah, I'd bail out.
Yeah, I cash in the chips, go home, and laugh all the way to the bank. Kaylee wants to know, did Shane get a Tahoe to a bonus Tahoe in the bonus round?
Only with foreign-made parts, Kaylee. Only with foreign-made parts.
Yes, because,
So
that is what the PI was looking into, supposedly.
So Rex, this indictment that happened in Bossier Parish.
Right.
Everybody watching is on pins and needles. I mean, we're still holding, right at 90 folks, and they're dying to know who the justice of the peace in Bossier Parish that was indicted. They're dying to know.
Before I pull this trigger, I just want everybody to know that this was your idea to tease this out. So you get the fallout because they still have their pitchforks out in the comments section tonight.
Okay. Before.
Right under the bus. I just threw you right under the bus.
You did. I mean, is that a SporTran bus or is that a Bossier City bus?
It's a zero fare SporTran bus as I display this. Now, it may be hard for some of you to read. So you want to do the honors or shall I?
Well, I can't even read it. You got it so small. It's technical difficulties. You got to zoom in there.
There we go. We'll make it much, but we'll even cover up the logo. Here we go. Okay. So this is the case of Justice of the Peace Fuller of Bossier, who is indicted for concubinage, is fixed for trial on Thursday, July the 22nd of, drumroll please, 1909. So, folks, the Good Old Boys Club has been going on for a long time here in Bossier, all the way back to 1909 with concubines.
And you don't ever hear about the Justice of the Peace, but they're right there in the middle of it. So the next time you go to a Justice of the Peace, you just need to know them folks have been right up in the middle of the Gob network, just like everybody else.
Don Thomas says, simply with two words, y'all suck.
Have a good night. We appreciate all y'all watching.
We're out here, folks. 84 of you at an hour and 47 minutes. I think we had some pretty good session with Dennis. We had great comments going on, whether you agree with us or not. We'll see you. Well, actually, we'll be back on Thursday evening for a Louisiana Watch. For those of you that are interested, we're going to talk some more about some Shreveport stuff. We have a guest, going to be Caddo Commissioner Mario Chavez, to answer a few questions Thursday evening on Louisiana Watch, so stay tuned for that. And if not, we'll be back next Tuesday for another Bossier Watch.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Lowry.